Please welcome Pew Charitable Trust's Project Director, Broadband Access, Catherine DeWitt, our moderator for Groundhog Day, Managing Network Expansion and Established Network Footprints.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is great to be here. Thank you, and it's nice to see. I can see some people out in the audience, so the lights are bright. All right, we are going to jump in. My name is Catherine DeWitt. I lead a team of researchers at the Pew Charitable Trust. We focus on state broadband policy, federal broadband policy. How do we really think about getting every American connected? And I'm really excited to be up here with these panelists today, who are not only going to talk about how we're thinking about growth and expansion now, but how are we really building to the future, but doing it in a way that is smart. I have the pleasure of steering a ship with people who really know about this at a detailed level, so I'm gonna stop talking, let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the conversation. Seth?
Sounds great. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I'm Seth Arndorfer, and I'm the CEO of DCN. We are a state fiber optic network in North Dakota that sells primarily to the businesses and governmental entities, and we're owned by 13 rural broadband service providers that really serve about 98% of the state's geography, from the houses and the residential and the broadband subscribers. So.
Awesome. Hey everybody, I'm Gene Cruzy. I'm the CEO of Surf Internet. We're a 27-year-old internet company. We started with dial-up, evolved to fixed wireless, and now we're at fiber. We're at about 300,000 passings. Should hit about 100,000 subscribers sometime this fall.
Good afternoon, I'm David Eckert. I'm at Nokia. I have worn many different hats at Nokia, and despite what it says for my title, I'm actually the head of strategy for fixed networks. I've been part of the building of fiber networks for the past 25 years. And Nokia is, yes, many people know us as the old cell phones that you used to have, but we are actually one of the innovators in broadband. So we've deployed over about 600 million lines of DSL, fiber, and other types of last mile technologies over the past 30 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Rapp. I am a product manager for fiber optic cable at Sumitomo Electric Lightwave. Along with cable, we manufacture entrance frames, enclosures, panels, anything that you need to get your data center in line. So great opportunity, and thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yeah. Okay. We'll jump into the conversation, and our prep call was really helpful in what started as like a, let's think about project by project, how do you think about expansion? That quickly evolved into, how are they really thinking about business expansion at the macro level, the enterprise level, which obviously intersects a lot with the details that y'all manage on a day-to-day basis, but I want to start at that high level. So when you are thinking about your expansion, what does that disciplined growth strategy look like? Whether you're talking about timing, permitting, or managing risk and uncertainty in this environment, but how are you thinking about scaling correctly without overexposing the business? And Gene, we'll start with you, and then Lauren.
Okay. Hey everybody. So before I get into the discipline part, I just want to hit two key things that I think is important for this room. Number one is that broadband is a commodity. And the one thing that's really going to set us apart is a way to differentiate our service. So I want to make sure I hit that, because I believe that customer experience is really critical for all of us in the room. And I just didn't want to get that lost in the noise of the conversation. And then the second thing is that we all know it's a land grab in terms of who could be first to fiber. And so I'm not going to make a Bill Gates prediction on the 16K RAM chips, but I'll just tell you that I think there's about 18 to 24 months of build left. And so now, how do we do disciplined growth? And so it starts with, you have to build the right kind of passings. So for Surf Internet, that means we want to build in places where we have a right to win our fair share. For us, that means being first fiber. Secondly, we want to be very disciplined about building in places where we can convert those passings to subscribers. I think everybody in this panel will remember a day where if you had a dream and you could write a business plan on a napkin, you could get $1 bazillion and build fiber. But now it's time to pay the piper, and you have to actually turn them into subscribers. So number one, you have to build a reliable, predictable build machine. For us, that's about 85,000 passings per year. And then you need to reliably convert them to customers. And for us, it has to match our underwriting assumptions in terms of ARPU and penetration. And then lastly, you have to deliver exceptional customer experience, because once you have a customer, you need to keep them. And so build reliably, convert them to customers, and then find ways to give them an exceptional experience.
Okay, I want to come back to that point, but Lauren, go ahead.
Yes, and I think to feed into what you were saying, I think for successful growth, at least from my perspective, training the workforce is definitely a very crucial aspect to be able to grow. We need the workforce to be able to splice, manufacture, well, not with manufacturing, although that has been very challenging as of late. How can you grow and expand, not only with your networks, but how do we grow and expand with our manufacturing? We have to bring those people in, definitely focus on training. With our company, we do have certification classes to help train and prepare the workforce to expand and install fiber in the new broadband efforts, also with AI and hyperscale. We all know with supply chain the issues that are going on, and we will touch on shortly. But with that also, with so much supply being put out in the network, who's going to lay that into the ground? Who's going to make those connections? We need to make sure that the workforce is educated and trained. So I think that gives a step up on growth. Also, another little bit about with supply chain, I would say being flexible with your plans, planning early. I think we all know that with lead times, especially for fiber in my industry, they are a year and beyond in some cases. So just being flexible, being able to adapt is definitely a key thing to help you grow.
Okay. David, Seth, anything to add on this particular point? No?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so that's the planning ahead and thinking through not just the how do we get there, but how do we keep our customers, folks engaged. I'm curious about one thing that came up in our call, which was that expansion is really more than last mile passings, particularly in this environment. We're talking about constrained resources, but just there's a lot of demand across the board. So Seth, would you mind elaborating on how DCN, for DCN, how has expansion shifted from passings to actual network diversification?
Yeah, I think it's really probably timely right now with, as North Dakota, they've been really proactive in fiber deployment. We've actually hit about 99.8% of the addresses in the state have access to gigabit internet. So the fiber has already been built to the residential homes, the businesses, the hospitals, the cell towers. And now what we're seeing is with AI and with the hyperscalers, it's really putting more pressure and demand on DCN as the middle mile provider and getting connectivity to a hyperscale data center. And the challenge has been, do you speculatively build a high capacity fiber route, for example, or do you wait for the hyperscaler to come into your market? Because if you speculatively build and they happen to locate their data center 20 miles from where our power generation plant is, which we've already seen, that costs a lot more money and your business case is going to struggle. So we've been working the past couple of years, really working with the hyperscalers, trying to get at the table in their early, whether it's the site development aspect, and then coming up with a business model to get them connected, not just to the internet, they want to get connected to a major population center. Mm-hmm. And so just recently we did a collaborative partnership between DCN, WIN, and Range. We're constructing a fiber backbone route from Chicago to Minneapolis through North Dakota, because that's where there's a significant amount of energy and power, and then extending it on down to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then ending in Denver. Mm-hmm. We've been working on that business model, but we really needed an anchor tenant, and we've gotten to that point.
Okay. So it sounds like when all of you were talking about that forward planning, I mean, Seth, you said speculation. That doesn't really sound like speculation. That sounds like pretty intensive planning and
Yes.
signal spotting too.
Yep.
So I'm curious if are there strong signals that y'all are looking at, particularly for folks who may say, is AI really,
Is this going to happen?
is this going to happen?
Yeah, or is it going to bust and after we make the investment? So those are probably two things. The other one is the supply chain.
Okay.
The timing of when is the right time to cut your purchase order because your pricing apparently isn't fixed anymore when you cut a PO. It's what the price is the day that it shows up in your yard. The timing of that really is a challenge that we're trying to manage through.
Okay.
Yeah, and the challenge with it is AI is not this. It's not a static thing. It's evolving. It's evolving very, very quickly. And the amount of capital, not just to put into the actual ground or into the power infrastructure, the water infrastructure, but even into the silicon, into the chips, into the switching, into the networking part of it. It's evolving so quickly. The amount of capital being raised. I mean, just the other day, last week I think it was an IPO came out, and by the end of the day, they already had a $100 billion market cap for a silicon company designing a new chip that competes with NVIDIA. The point being is that even AI itself, what we've been looking at so far, has always been about training. It's about these large GPU clusters that they do consume a lot of resources, a lot of power, and so forth. But we're starting to see this transformation or this transition from these large data centers and really starting to go distributed and become closer and closer to those users. I mean, as Seth was pointing out, I mean, they have to go out, they have to get closer, and they need the networks to be able to support that.
Okay, so it sounds like that as the business models have maybe become, I don't want to say predictable, but you're identifying those signals, population being one of them, and I would assume concentration of network assets.
We keep talking about latency. I mean, latency is becoming more and more critical, especially the applications that are using the AI tool sets. It's going to be fundamental.
Okay. So for all of you, I guess then I'm curious, is there something that has become a more powerful either signal or driver of your decision making in recent years? Is it power? Is it permitting? Is it access to the workforce? Is there something that has emerged in recent years that really serves as a decision-making point for you, particularly as you're thinking about expanding your networks and future-proofing your networks?
I can speak from North Dakota's perspective. It really comes, the forecasting trigger has been the power generation. We have a large oil formation called the Bakken. And the limiting factor for the oil exploration is the ability to get and utilize the natural gas that comes out. And so there's a massive investment in natural gas generation, and the data centers are looking at placing their data centers and using that, burning that natural gas to power their turbine. And that's really where when we hear a power announcement, the data center activity immediately follows.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, from the surf perspective, if you put on the lens of what I mentioned earlier, about 18 to 24 months of build plan left, for us, it's about where can we win by being first fiber. And so in order to do that, we need to build across many markets at the same time to avoid utility locate delays, permitting issues, weather things. And then what's really critical to our supply chain, especially the fiber and the conduit issues, is to have a reliable production funnel of passings per month. And so the way to do that is to distribute the build across 3 states and multiple markets, so that if we have like a railroad crossing that's difficult to get across, or some issue in one market, we have plenty of volume in the other. But what that allows us to do with our vendor managed inventory through our supplier NetSeed is that we can tell them, hey, we're going to do 10,000 passings per month. We need 10,000 passings per month of handholds and conduit and fiber and splice cases. And that's a way to level out the supply chain disruptions that some of our peers are feeling.
Okay. Does that allow for you to sort of shift for unplanned disruptions?
That's right, yeah.
Mid-build, okay.
Yeah, let's face it, all of us are trying to build fiber and be there first for surf. Unlike our friends here, we're focused on fiber to the home, and then we'll go back later and do enterprise and cell towers and all that other stuff. And so, but the big guys are all building fiber at crazy paces as well. And so if we have a competitor that's gone into a market in a serving area, we will surgically avoid them, or maybe strategically avoid the entire market. But by having, I think right now we have 40 or 50 markets under construction. If we pull one off the table, we have a big funnel behind it to fill it, and that allows our supply chain to continue delivering a million feet a month of conduit and all that kind of stuff.
Thinking through the logistics of that is getting a little overwhelmed. David, Lauren, anything to add?
No, I would add from a vendor's perspective, I mean, the supply chains, obviously we're trying to supply this both on the fiber side and on the electronic side, and whether it's memory, whether it's silicon, whether it's even sheet metals and so forth, it's the supply chain is a challenge, and it's not just for the data center builds, it's also for, we've got BEAD coming up, we've got other programs. I mean, as Gary talked about in the very opening session, we're on this last part of the decade here. We're going to be trying to connect most of this country. So it is going to be it's a real challenge over these next several years to be able to supply a lot of this. And this is where the industry as a whole is trying to work together to figure out how we make this happen.
Okay.
So.
And I can mirror that from a manufacturer perspective as well. Forecasting is, it's a challenge, but it's necessary because we need to know what raw materials we need to make the cable that you need for your project. So that level of detail, although it's really, really tough to plan out a year in advance, we need to work on the back end with our vendors to be able to supply what you need and manufacture it in a timely basis. And aside from fiber, there are other things that we plan for with the type of cables used in the facility, other things like that. But planning is definitely crucial from our perspective.
So one might think, from all of the conversation we've been having here and elsewhere about AI, that AI may be a tool in helping manage some of these inputs and what is really, again, Gene, that's a lot of details that you got to manage. Still processing that. But I'm curious, Lauren, David, is AI helping in the business production at this point? Can any of you give any specific tangible examples amongst friends as to whether AI is really delivering on the for business optimization, and talk to us about how that manifests?
Sure. From my perspective with manufacturing and research and development, I'll kind of go probably in a different direction than you are with your question, Catherine. But with our research and development coming out with new products being driven by AI, we have to think outside the box and kind of utilize tools that we have but make them more refined. So the last few years, data centers have come to us and we need more fiber and less space. So we've worked on making cable designs smaller. After the design can't get smaller, what can you do? You make the fiber smaller. Now we're looking to the future, driven by AI, driven by machine learning, needing all the bandwidth, multi-core fiber, hollow core fiber. Latency is a big issue that we are trying to help mitigate for our customers. So hollow core fiber that is upcoming will definitely help with that as well. So a lot of the things we do, like I said, with research and development is driven by AI and driven by our customers' demand.
Yeah, I think if anybody who's on the show floor, I mean, I think every single vendor is talking about AI, right? AI. And I think what's unique and what's interesting is, we've been doing most of this for many years. I think what's different about it now is that now we actually have a large ecosystem of different vendors, whether you're doing fiber planning to building products, doing operations. You have all this data. And what AI is allowing us to do is to consume this data, structure this data, and actually start acting on this data. And so whether you have the birth certificate of when a fiber has been installed to when it's being operated, or when it's in operation, there's a failure, you have this whole life cycle at your fingertips. So for operators, they're able to do so much more with what they already have, with the talent. And then at the same time, internally, and I know we have a number of our customers who are doing code generation and at almost breakneck speeds. And so having us to open or have an open access to their data, to be able to consume the data, to understand it, and build the tools that they need to build, it's amazing to see how operators are using these tools as well to be able to go faster with what they have.
So is it anticipatory analysis, like forward? Is it forward-looking, or is it active day-to-day problem solving?
It is active. It is because again, you know, everybody's looking to drive OpEx down as much as possible, these are the tools that they have at their fingertips to be able to. And it's amazing to see very large operators and very small operators utilizing the same type of tools to accelerate and to go faster.
Well, and I think from DCN's perspective, we have Nokia in our platform, and from a staffing standpoint, we're not a very, you know, we don't have 100 technicians, but the time to provision and turn up circuits is critically important to our customers. The testing, the RFC2544 testing, the automation, maybe not so much AI, but integrating automation into the turn up of that service has been game-changing from an overtime perspective, because all those services have to be tested and turned up typically outside of 8 to 5 business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything to add?
Yeah, I can just give you some real practical stuff. So we do a CSAT survey with all of our installs, and we also regularly do NPS scores, Net Promoter Score surveys. And one way we use AI is to track that and then tell us what the trends are. And so a really practical thing that we discovered is that our customers just want to know what's going on when there's an issue. And so AI said, if you just tell them what's going on, so we created like a circuit record that says my fiber goes from here to here to there, and if there's a cut there, you two are down, so we're going to send you a text message and say there's a cut, this is what's going on. Our NPS score went up by 3 or 4
That's
just by
very
communicating with the customer, just a really easy, practical way.
Wow.
And so much of this, you know, right now is we're building these tools, and it's, we'll say, reactionary. But we're going to see, and I guarantee next year at this time, we're going to be talking about more the proactive aspect of it, where the network itself is understanding what's happening before you even know that it's actually a failure is getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
So next year, I'm sure we'll be talking more about agents. We'll be talking about skills. We'll be talking about other types of concepts that enable the network to truly be a kind of a thinking, breathing organism that's actually going to be proactively telling you what to do and how to do it, more so than you actually having to react to it and understand, okay, now I need to go do something.
Yeah. And it sounds like all in different ways. I mean, everyone really is thinking about this from the consumer experience. I mean, you're talking about bringing down OpEx, but it is how are we really improving the product that we're delivering to our consumers and customers in different ways. I'm curious, I want to go back to the supply chain question, and I want to start with the operators. How are you, knowing that your customers are your first priority, that's how you make your money back, obviously. How are you thinking about managing those supply chain constraints in this environment with that customer-focused lens?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our team has done a really fantastic job of negotiating a vendor-managed inventory arrangement with our suppliers. So we quarterly give them forecasts of how many installs we're going to do in terms of customer gross adds, how many footage of conduit we need and fiber. And so the way that we do that is we give them a regular forecast, and they commit. We give them a volume commitment, and they commit to keeping our deliveries on time and on budget.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I would say the same prior to this major project. We worked really closely with our vendor, because it's kind of a rob Peter to pay Paul type of a world that we're living in with supply chain. And if you have a really good relationship with your vendor, they can likely get you, maybe it's only 100 miles of fiber that you need, not 1,000 miles, but rather than taking the risk and having a bunch of that fiber on inventory.
Okay, so it's really being smart about what you actually need rather than
You're
sort of that panic purchasing?
You're committing to some purchase 12 months from now, along with the rest of the operators in this group. But at some point, I think where the challenge in the industry is everybody's kind of committing to something 12 months from now, and it's kind of flipped the model upside down to where now they're saying, no, if you're going to order it, you're going to take it.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of I think a change in the market coming.
Okay, that's a dynamic I hadn't heard before. Lauren, I saw you leaned in a little bit there, so anything that you want to add on that, maybe on the shifting dynamic or how you're thinking about it from your side?
Yes, this all sounds very familiar, and the forward thinking and forecasting is definitely appreciated, as we talked about a little while ago. And we do receive those inquiries. Well, I think we need this in a year, not quite sure. And for having to plan our materials and our manufacturing against a maybe is quite a risk in itself. But You know, it's definitely something that we do regardless. We, at my factory, have to work with our parent company to make sure we have enough fiber coming in to our factory to make the cable that we make. So being able to know, you know, what's happening in a year, even though it's kind of, like you said, a maybe or a soft forecast, it's definitely something to help us drive our supply chain internally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I would also just, it's working, you know, with the vendors, working with us. I mean,
Okay.
you know, it's a challenge. I mean, you know, it's also a challenge that, you know, sometimes, you know, we get thrown some curveballs from like the FCC saying, hey, we need to do more manufacturing stateside. So there's things that we have to kind of, you know, wait for, you know, we have to prepare ourselves, but we also need to be working with, you know, our customers. And some of our customers, and you said the hyperscalers, they're pretty demanding. They can be very demanding on when they want things and how they want it. So we have to kind of manage all this and make it all happen.
Okay. All right, David, you opened the door. I'm going to walk through it. Policy. Let's talk about that. Of the policy decisions that have been made, or perhaps the lack thereof, BABA, USF reform, any of the recent BEAD changes, is there one that is really standing out to you? It's giving you a lot of concern at the moment. What is it and why?
Well, you know, I think, you know, we've been, the whole BABA saga has been, and the BEAD saga, I should say, was a challenge. But I think, you know, now we have some determination there. I think now it's the non-deployment funds. What do we do with this? How's this going to be used? I mean, I've talked to many people this week about, okay, well, we have these ideas how we're going to use it for workforce development, how we're going to use it for, you know, middle mile, how we're going to use it for all these different areas. So I think that's a chunk of change that was not, you know, allocated out during the whole BEAD program. That now we've got to look at, okay, is this actually going to come to fruition? And it would help so many, you know, smaller operators be able to deploy even faster and to do more with their network. So that, to me, is one that I think is at everybody's tip of their tongue, but we'll see what actually happens.
All right, we've got one for non-deployment.
I would echo non-deployment because, like I said, North Dakota, we only had 500 addresses you know, connected with fiber.
Very unique state in that.
So we got $130 million sitting in the account at the state of North Dakota, and we have a shovel-ready project to increase our backbone, and we can't use those funds. The market's moving faster than the government, which isn't shocking, but
It's still frustrating.
it's still frustrating.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I would say not on a federal level, but a local level. Municipalities are now suffering from fiber fatigue, and they're actually implementing strategies that are making it more difficult to permit and get started. And so it's actually starting to slow down the build in certain geographies, which is pretty
Can you say a little bit more about the fiber fatigue piece?
We have a municipality who requires a permit for every single customer install. And so imagine going to the building department, applying for a permit to install a residential fiber drop.
Wow.
And that's because 2 other providers came in after us and built that same market, and they're completely fatigued and overwhelmed.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful to know. Okay, we've got about a minute left. Closing thoughts for the audience on one takeaway from the discussion, whether we're thinking about forward planning for AI or managing in this resource-constrained environment. You guys want to start? Lauren, down the line, or Seth, are you ready to go?
Closing thought, I think we're in a challenging time, but I think we're also looking at this massive investment in data centers, in AI, and in a lot of the markets that we're serving. We just have to figure out how we play in that game.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, for me, I can't see you, but I'm looking in your eyes even though I can't see you. I'm saying that this is a once-in-a-generational opportunity for us to get people connected and make a difference in the world, so don't screw it up. Let's do it.
I think for me, I agree with my fellow panelists here. It is a once-in-a-lifetime or once-in-a-generation opportunity. The challenge with it is how do operators monetize? How do they ensure that they're not just being passed over by, with these new tools coming about? It's an incredible opportunity, and I think as we're seeing now, more and more of this AI and data center capabilities moving from these very large locations to closer and closer to subscribers and end users. I think the operators have a tremendous opportunity to play, but they have to lean into it. They can't just wait for it to happen. They need to be proactive about it.
Okay.
I agree. Proactivity is definitely great, and amazing opportunities for expansion and growth, and just have fun with it. This is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, as we've all said, and embrace it and have a good time with it.
Okay. Opportunities abound. Be smart, and look for them where they exist. So thank you so much. Please join me in thanking our panelists. Thank you. Right.